Hi, and welcome to the Town Matters podcast. This is Town Manager John Potter broadcasting from the BCTV studios in Brattleboro, Vermont. This podcast is a summary of what is happening in Brattleboro town government at the Select Board level. Today, let's review what happened at the Select Board's meeting on Tuesday, September 3rd, and then look ahead at the upcoming agendas to be discussed on the nights of Tuesday, September 17th and Thursday, September 19th. Here's a summary of what happened at the board's first meeting in September. On the consent agenda, 7 board actions were approved. They assigned a new street name for E911 purposes to a private driveway near Pleasant and Maple Streets, and that will be called Clover Lane. They awarded a $36,747 bid for 2 wastewater pump replacements at the Wilson's Woods wastewater plant. And they awarded a $103,000 bid, slightly over that, for a project known as the Sawdust Alley Paving Project on Lower Burge Street, Baker Street, and Holden Street. They approved a parade permit to the Sandglass Theater for a parade that will be held on September 12th. They approved a second-class liquor license and tobacco license for the Changeezy Food Mart at 228 Canal Street. They authorized application for a $683 grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services to subsidize courier services for interlibrary loans. And the 7th item that the board approved on consent was awarding a $41,000 bid to upfit 2 police vehicles budgeted for this fiscal year. The board did some planning for the annual Safety Fair and Forum, where they discussed what town staff might bring to the partners that are putting together this event to share community safety work being done in the community. No motion was made or approved on that item. Next, the board heard about a grant application, and they held a public hearing on a grant application for a affordable housing project at 12 to 14 Elliott Street. They authorized the submission of an application to the Vermont Community Development Program for an implementation grant for Community Development Support, Inc. in the amount of $500,000 for that project by a vote of 5-0. Following that, the board issued a health order as health commissioners for 6 Reynolds Drive, where there is trash accumulating in the yard and a number of health-related deficiencies in that building at that address. Next, the board considered the Community Safety Review Report from 2020 and more recent police department developments. During this discussion, the board considered outstanding work from this effort and recent and ongoing work by Chief Hardy at the police department. The board discussed goals of the original process, as well as a number of areas where town staff have made great strides in addressing concerns expressed by the report, including mental health, social services, and data collection and analysis. They discussed the huge and thorough amount of work from the Community Safety Review Committee, as well as additional topics such as training from local content experts with lived experience, funding for safe housing, restorative justice, project care, police relations in the community, and reducing budget expenditures on police. The Select Board approved a motion to accept and approve the staff update and the final staff recommendations for implementation of the 2020 Community Safety Review Report, and that motion was passed by a vote of 5-0. The final agenda item at the September 3rd meeting was the first reading of a possible acceptable community conduct ordinance, which would be changes to Chapter 13 of the Brattleboro Code. This ordinance would set out unacceptable behaviors in certain areas and at certain properties, and would establish fines and no trespass restrictions for violations. There were mechanisms for appeal discussed, as well as a number of specific and non-specific changes. No motion was made, and this item will come back for second reading at the September 17th meeting. The next Select Board meeting is a regular meeting scheduled for Tuesday, September 17th at 6:15 in the Select Board meeting room at 230 Main Street, or on Zoom, and the Zoom information is available on the website at brattleboro.gov. The preliminary agenda for the board's second meeting in September has the following in it. A consent agenda with 4 items on it. One is authorizing a $500,000 grant application for the Municipal Energy Resilience Program to make improvements with this grant at the Gibson-Aiken Center for Energy and Resiliency efforts being made there. The second item on consent is ratifying a $35,000 repair that was made to the Broad Brook wastewater pump, which had failed and was fixed on an emergency basis last week or the week before. The third item on consent for September 17th will be a parade permit application for a Halloween parade. And finally, there are a number of applications for hazard mitigation grants that will also be considered for approval. After the consent agenda is considered, the first item of old business is the second reading of the Acceptable Community Conduct Ordinance. These are the items that the board took up at their September 3rd meeting, and it is the second consideration of this ordinance. Under new business, the board will consider a financing plan for implementing the Downtown Safety Action Plan that Chief Hardy brought to the board a couple of meetings ago. Next, they will hear from Executive Director Christine Allen of Turning Point with an update and various initiatives that organization has been working on. And finally, on September 17th, the Select Board will be talking about and considering an acceptable community conduct campaign. So kind of messaging to various audiences around the Acceptable Community Conduct Ordinance. Following that meeting on September 17th, there will be a special meeting on September 19th at 6:15. And this special meeting is another visit with Brattleboro's legislative delegation. And this will be the only item on the board's agenda of significance. And it will be a review of the Select Board's 2025 priorities for the state legislative session. And there will be 5 sections of that discussion. And the first will be on drug addiction resources. The second will be on mental health reform. The third will be on violence prevention. The fourth will be on affordable and middle income housing. And the final legislative priority that the Select Board will discuss with the delegation is municipal revenue enhancement. I have a couple of announcements from the town clerk's office. The state will be mailing ballots to all active registered voters during the week of September 23rd for the general election. You do not need to request a ballot for the general election unless you need it mailed to a different address than the town clerk has on file. If you do not receive your ballot by October 7th, please reach out to the town clerk's office at 802-251-8157 or townclerk@brattleboro.gov. The general election will be held on November 5th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the American Legion. Join us as the Brattleboro Police Department faces off against the Brattleboro Fire Department during the First Responders Softball Tournament. Proceeds from this charity event will benefit Frontline Foundations. The game will be happening on Saturday, September 14th at 5 p.m. out at West River Park, located at 333 West River Road in Brattleboro. Entry to this family-friendly event is by donation. Parking is free. Doors are open at 4 p.m. So that's a few announcements and an update on what the Select Board has been addressing at its meetings. Please see the town website, brattleboro.gov, for additional information, including meeting agendas, staff reports, and backup materials. Thanks for listening to Town Matters, and we'll see you again soon.